everyone, welcome to the House Blend. I got my buddy Jeffrey Kebschull. Am I saying that right? Kebschull?
Kebschull, yep.
Kebschull, thank you. With us today, interior designer, architect, and lead certified designer. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right.
For the
Good.
most part. And Jeffrey is the owner of Kebschull Interiors. And thanks for being on today, man. Excited
You're
to
welcome.
talk to you about some design insights as they relate to the Bay Area. Uh, let me start off though by asking: Are you a coffee drinker, tea drinker?
I usually have tea every morning, and coffee is like my treat, kind of like weekends and with friends thing.
Okay, cool. That's not what I expected. I mean, like par for our industry is like 2-3 cups a day, but if you're treating it as a delicacy, good
Yeah.
for you, man.
I mean, I don't, I'm somebody who doesn't get affected by caffeine, so it doesn't get me going or anything. So I'll just have it for fun.
Sure. Sure. So you're in Oakland. What's your go-to coffee shop out there?
I typically go around the corner because I like to get up and get the walk going. So there's like a funny little place over on Park Street just called Woody's Cafe.
Yeah.
They make a good coffee there. It's like super down home, and they have breakfast sandwiches and stuff like that. I love the local shops and
Yeah.
supporting the locals.
I'm a big fan of Hat on Hill coffee shop over there by you
Yeah,
too, I think.
yeah,
They,
that's actually really good as well.
they got they have comic books that you can read, and I think that's just such a nice touch.
Your
Oh,
comic books and breakfast sandwiches.
there you go. Love language right there. So, hey man, before we get into it, can you just give our listeners a little bit of background into what your background is, what your approach? I know you've lived all over the U.S. and done some really high end remodels for finishes. Um, but just give the listeners an idea of who Jeffrey Kepschull is.
Sure. So I went to architecture school and did that for the first half of my career. Have been working in architecture since I was like 20, so I worked in, I don't know, a variety of projects. I did historic renovations and stuff like that when I was still in Seattle. And I did everything from federal housing and into custom residential. So primarily, I've worked in custom residential with single family homeowners and things like that. When I moved to Chicago, I started working in a really high end firm, and that's when I really got into high end finishes and very custom things and doing architecture that integrates really well with interiors, starting to think of homes from the inside out, like what the home looks like when it is driven by your lifestyle and what you need the inside to be. So I started working and doing architecture for an interiors firm. And then when I moved to the Bay Area, I got hired by an architecture firm that wanted me to be an interiors person for them.
Mhm.
So I hybridized with them a little bit, and was their interior designer, even though I kind of did everything. But it really got me into, designing custom furniture and custom millwork and kitchens and things like that, at the same time as building the houses. And then I went out on my own, and now I do that for myself. I will do everything from ground up houses, just architecture, to just furniture design or pillows and wallpaper and stuff like that. So it's kind of a full business thing. But it really gets into doing long term projects with clients that just are ongoing and managing their portfolio of properties and taking care of their residences long term. It's very seldom that I am done with a house and never see it again. Like I
Sure.
just keep going back and remodeling things, and stuff to fit how their life is changing. So that's kind of the thing.
Wild. Okay.
Yeah.
So they just like give you the keys and when their kids, become toddlers or teenagers, then you go in and
Yep. Change
basically
the room out for teenagers. Change the room out to a guest room. Need it to be an office now? Cool. Let's do that. Rip everything out. Put in millwork.
yeah,
Yeah, and I typically have the keys and the access codes to, most of my clients' houses, and they want me just to go in and take care of things. They're like,
sure.
while I'm not here, you take care of it. Cool, got it.
So are you like you play like a GC role or do you actually like do the swing the hammers yourself and stuff like that?
I do call I wouldn't really say GC so much because I'm not contract doing contract work and building, but I am the project manager for them.
Sure.
For
Okay.
most clients where they need something done and they don't know how to get it done, I will bring in all the people. I will hire the GCs or I will hire demo or drywall or painters and I will put together the timeline. So technically, yes, that is like what a GC does, but then a GC wouldn't also be, you know, um, having their rugs cleaned and looming new rugs or reupholstering their furniture and dealing with the movers, etc. Movers and
Yeah.
packers. I can get everything out of the house, flip the house, put everything back in, etc.
Okay. Yeah. Really a man who wears many hats.
Yeah,
So
I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. I've lifted some pianos and installed light fixtures and stuff on definitely before too.
sure, sure, sure. So yeah, and before we started recording this, we were talking. You got your clients up in Truckee. What are you working on? Anything local right now?
Yeah, I have a couple places. I'm doing like an ADU garage ground up build over in Orinda for some friends. Um, Couple kitchen remodels, master bathrooms over in Alameda.
Sweet.
Um, One of something in the city over around like Sutro Tower. Couple places up in wine country that I'm working on.
Yeah. Full load. It sounds like.
Yeah, got to keep all the projects going.
Yeah. So I mean, with your background in architecture and design, I wanted to ask you about like aesthetic trends. How can people blend like the diverse Bay Area architecture into styles with modern design? You know what I mean? Like personally, I have an old Victorian house, and we just redid our kitchen,
Yeah,
and I think we did a pretty good job. But I see so many houses that it doesn't work. You know what I mean?
a
Um,
remodel doesn't.
yeah, yeah. Where you got a very modern interior or something like that, and like it just doesn't work with the architecture. So,
Hmm.
what do you have any advice or like what's your approach to starting a remodel with the very old architecture that the Bay Area is known for?
I don't know if I have seen a struggle per se in if you are somebody who say you found a house, it's beautiful, it's everything that you need. It may not be your style, like perhaps it's an older home or a home with a specific style like craftsman or something like that, but you love modern architecture or
Mhm.
modern interiors. Um, I don't think that the two can't blend. I think that it's almost never that I would say that you can't blend styles. I think the problem is really that when people don't do it well or don't just go for it, like they are too reserved
Yeah.
or afraid to touch something like, you know, you want that look inside a house. You have a historic home, but you're like, oh, well, I could never destroy the fireplace or something like that. That's, would be blasphemy. And I'm kind of like, well, if you're only going to go halfway, then you're not going to get what you want or live in the home or the style that you want. And you're holding yourself back. You know what I mean? If somebody else wants that fireplace afterwards, after you move out and sell the house because they don't like your style, then they'll put in a fireplace. They can put it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Salvage and put stuff away. But you really have to go for it because halfway will never, halfway always looks like a half-assed job. I don't know if I
totally.
can say that.
No, you can definitely say that. um, no, I mean that's valid. Are there any like trends or interior design trends that you're seeing trending right now or on their way out?
I mean, I I try to stay away from trends. So they're, especially when it comes to architecture, I think things that are trendy are usually only trendy for like 5 years or something like
Yeah.
that. And you don't want to do a remodel or something that you're going to have to redo in 5 years or is going to look 5 years ago. So, yes, you can absolutely put in the things that you find hot, like right now, with knowing that, if it's just knowing that you might want to change it. Be cognizant of how much you're spending on a certain thing and how much of it is that you are putting in so that you don't feel trapped by it. I think it's much easier to have classic architecture and materials that will last forever and use trendy accessories or smaller parts that can be updated as you grow and as trends change. So a backsplash, you can have all the beautiful cabinets, they're classic and things like that, but you can put in a really trendy backsplash if you love that pop of something. No, because a backsplash is easy to swap out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Maybe you're
Yeah.
going to redo your backsplash every 5 years, and that's how cure your bug for remodeling.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. How about waterfall islands? Yay or nay?
I think waterfall islands will always be a thing. Again, it just depends on the architecture. I mean, I
Yeah.
did waterfall islands in my house in Chicago, and they look amazing. I would not pull them out. It was interesting because you could see into the kitchen directly. The kitchen and the living room were directly adjacent to one another through a doorway, and I waterfalled over the edge of the side facing the living room. Um, and I like that clean look there. Would it have been more attractive to look at the edge of the countertop and the edge of the cabinet and the toe look straight down the toe kick? I don't think so. So I think that in that case, it was the cleanest aesthetic. So,
Sure.
if is it trendy or because it looks cool and everybody jumped on board, or is it a thing that somebody developed and it's practical, and then people just decided to make it trendy? There's practicality about it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think, I got yelled at by a couple women in my office when I was considering doing a waterfall island. So I had to ask that question. They're like,
Oh,
absolutely not. It's going out. But I do think it's kind of it makes the space feel smaller than it is, right? Um,
do you think so?
and so like with I don't know. I know that in Chicago you get a lot more bang for your buck out there, but the houses out here in the Bay Area are pretty. They can be small.
Yeah.
What are some small changes that you might recommend for a homeowner looking to do some design fixes that would have the biggest impact on a home?
Small changes, did you say?
Small, yeah, yeah. What are some small changes that might make the biggest impact to a house?
Well, if you want to do things to have big impact and change, but isn't going to like break the bank, I think the biggest impact is always going to be, frankly, your light fixtures.
Yeah,
Um, there are so many ugly light fixtures out there, and people get used to them and they forget to look up. If your house, when you first move in and the house is empty and the only thing to look at is the light fixtures, you're like, that is an ugly light fixture.
Sure.
As soon as you move all your stuff in, you start forgetting that thing up there because you're just focused on all the rest of everything. But all of those boob lamps that come from the Home Depot, get rid of those things. I hate them. They're
Oh
terrible.
no, I'm
You
with you,
know,
man. 100%. That's
everybody focuses only on like a dining room fixture or one over your island or something like that. But why don't people have beautiful, they're fine having that boob lamp in their bedroom. And I'm like, you're laying there in bed staring up at that thing every day. You
yeah.
know, do a beautiful fixture. Stop making your fixtures so small. Why is everybody buy the smallest fixtures? I'm like, every time I'm in somebody's house, they're like, I like my new fixture. And I'm like, mm-hmm. Like 20 inches is like minimum. Like more often than not, like 30 inches is minimum. I had like one of those lamps in my foyer and I like, moved, that's like a good 27 inches,
Yeah.
30 inches, and it's not that far above me, I can touch
Sure.
it, but it's so high impact. And this foyer has a lot of doors and it doesn't have a lot of room for furniture, etc. So it's one of the ways that like you walk in and it already sets the tone. I have like a beautiful fixture in my office. I have a beautiful fixture in my kitchen. You know what I mean? No, no shitty light fixtures.
No,
So
that's
I'd say
valid.
that paint, wallpaper. If you live in an apartment, do peel and stick. Makes a huge impact. Those are easy things. Change out your doorknobs. Doorknobs are so ugly too, and people touch and handle them every day. You have to look at that thing, and there's so many beautiful doorknobs out there, especially for restoration. In Chicago, I had these really beautiful ones that were bamboo, like looked like they had a bamboo and pattern on them. Really pretty, not expensive, easy to change. Anyway, small touches.
No, that's valid. I love that you said the Home Depot stuff because, when you walk through all these houses, sellers just sometimes want the cheapest, or
Mm,
contractors want the cheapest, and you see it over and over and over again. So
yeah,
I'm so happy you said that. Um, like I said, we just redid our kitchen and we did not skimp on the light fixtures, so you
yeah,
would be proud.
it's important.
We ran out of money, so we definitely skimped on the appliances, but that'll come with time, you know?
Yeah, you can always come back to some of these things though too. The appliances,
Yeah.
sure, I don't recommend skimping ever, but sometimes, you know, you swap something in and then you can slide out a range and slide in another one into like a more expensive one 3 years from now because they're all the same size. You know what I mean? The cheap
Hmm.
dishwasher is going to be the same size as like the Bosch that you might want 2 years from now.
Yeah. With natural hazards being such a thing out here, do you have any tips for designing around like natural hazards? Do you ever
Like
do that?
fires
Yeah.
and I mean, I read a lot of the articles about the LA fires and some of the architecture that was designed specifically for fire hazards, and it's really impressive. Some of the houses that you can look up and still see standing with like every house surrounding them, has been lost, and that one's just fine standing there. But I think that there are always opportunities. Just the fact of the matter is most people it's going to come down to budget and what you can afford. There are more expensive building methods that can counteract a lot of things like fire and water dangers. You get into the habit of just going when you start building and following the contractor, and the contractor wants to make it most economical, and you're spending a lot of money. Um, so you also want it to be economical, but do your research ahead of time and try to get some of those things that mitigate risks that you already know are in your area. Um, Figure out a way to create your budget and get those things in as opposed to thinking about it later when you've already gone down the road of having a really expensive project underway. And you start slashing and value engineering because you can't get those things in. Make it happen from the get-go. Make sure it's already in your budget.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And and that's more for like when you're building a house. Are there ways to like design against fire risk or
Yeah,
earthquake
there
risk? I
is
mean, I
for
know there's
sure.
earthquake.
I think but the biggest thing for fire risk is landscaping is the biggest key, and creating the buffer around your house for fire not to be able to reach it. So, changing out your landscaping, looking at plants and things like that, plants, fence design, materials that try to keep things away from the house.
Mhm.
If you're getting into actual remodel where you might be working on your siding or your roofing, then again, cementitious siding, hardy boards, etc. And I think asphalt shingles work well. Obviously, you don't necessarily want to have a wood roof in high fire zone areas.
Totally.
And then there's people that just have retention barrels, water retention barrels, and things like that. All the people that have swimming pools that have pumps built into their swimming pools that activate irrigation systems on their roof, etc.
I've heard of that actually, and I think if everybody in Montclair would do that, it wouldn't be such a high fire area. But that's
Yeah, definitely irrigate your roof if you have a pool.
yeah,
Have it connected to a generator and a pumping system that leads to sprinklering, so that if the power goes off, if the water goes off, you're able to pump that water that's just sitting there.
yeah. Um, I mean, these are all great tidbits, man. I um, I do have a question though, because like we're approaching the spring market, um, a lot of sellers are looking at doing renovations on their home in order to increase the value of their home. I know you
Mm,
mentioned that you do a lot for like tailored specifically to their lifestyle.
mm.
Have you helped anyone interior design or design a rehab that would increase the value of their home? And like what areas would you recommend focusing on if somebody was thinking about that?
Obviously, kitchen and baths sell homes, you know. So I think everybody knows that, and I think there are small touches that you can do that will help you sell. Upgrading things are easy, like just cabinet knobs and everything like that. There's small things like that. But then the other thing that people look for is storage. And I would say it's often not considered when people walk through. They're opening every closet door and looking in those closets. So I would say rebuild your closets,
Yeah.
tear out the single rod that's there, put in a tower that separates, long hanging from short hanging, really maximize those spaces. But also there's like a lot of wasted space in houses. You have a large foyer. You have this big space in the hallway where you have a bench sitting or something like that. There are opportunities that people don't necessarily think of, where you can put in linen closets or guest coat closets that you might not have because you use the guest coat closet for all your winter coats or something like that. There's spaces for you to put in like a 24-inch deep. Cabinet closets interiors only need to be 21 inches deep, for hanging space. And you can buy full height cabinets and trim them out to look built in, etc. You can buy the boxes from IKEA, and then you can go to some place like Semi Handmade in LA, and they do all the beautiful cladding and wood doors that make them look really stunning and like built in architecture.
Hmm.
And you can build these things into your home and create more space, and that also sells homes and it looks custom.
No, I love that. You definitely hit the nail on the head with kitchens and bathrooms sell home. I feel like that's what I tell every seller. Closets and storage is a huge
Mhm.
overlooked overlooked thing, I
Yeah.
guess. So, when should somebody considering hiring an interior designer versus doing it themselves?
I think having an interior designer is always helpful, even if you are just paying for a walkthrough. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if you maybe you're not going to go through the whole process, but I usually tell my clients that I work in phases. And every phase has usually at the beginning, at the time we put together a contract, every phase has a certain amount of hours associated with it. They can see during preliminary planning, it's going to take this many hours, for me to draw their house and develop a floor plan. Sometimes that's all you need. You know what I mean? If you hired somebody to you could hire somebody just to do a walkthrough with you and talk about pieces and talk about the size and scale of pieces because that's really the thing. Like people don't understand that, you know, every couch off the rack pretty much comes in a standard like 72 inches or 69 inches or something like that. But
Yeah.
yes, that is the standard, but there's so many other options out there. And like, what size should you actually have? You know, like mine in my living room is 112 inches. If I didn't have a 112-inch couch, all the room would be only half utilized, and it allows me to like create bigger seating area. So those conversations are so helpful. You can just do a walkthrough, or you can do a quick measure, and you can have somebody do a furniture plan with a couple of furniture layouts for you, and that could be it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might not even think about laying out your space in multiple ways. Or if if you get bored easily, my mom used to like rearrange the furniture in our house every year. She'd be like, "I'm bored." She wants to look a different direction, have a TV in the different space. I just remembered like that's probably why I got into it so much. Like I'd come home from school and everything would be different. So like all the same furniture, but all in a different space. And she'd change out all the accessories. And I always thought that was so much fun. It was like everything was fresh all of a
Yeah.
sudden. Yeah.
No, I love that. Can you walk us through a little bit about what your process is when designing a space? Like when you come out to a new client's house or something like that. Where do you guys start?
For me, I do everything. My process is really CAD driven. For people that don't know, designers and architects use AutoCAD, which is computer etch a sketch for laying things out. And that's where all the drawings come from. Yes, I can walk through a space and see 3D better than a lot of people can just because of training. But my first process is like every time somebody just has me over to do a walkthrough, I have a laser measure with me because I want to know how big the space is. And so I always start with measuring and I want to draw the room. It doesn't take that long. And then start plopping in some of my standard blocks of furniture just to see how it fills up and how much room is taken up by space, or how much space is taken up by just the typical things that everybody is going to have.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have like two armchairs, a sofa, a coffee table, an 8 by 10 rug. Oh, also, why does everybody buy such small rugs? Like that should literally be on every website. Don't buy small rugs. Your
Yeah.
rugs need to hold all the furniture. 8 by 10 is not the only size out there. People don't even know half the time that 8 by 10 is also too small and they're buying like 6 by 9 or something and it looks like a postage stamp and it makes the room feel smaller. Anyway, but yeah, I usually draw first. Because it allows me to see more options than I would just, you know, eyeballing it.
Yeah. I bet somebody having you over could probably just like open their mind to the possibilities too. It's funny you brought up rugs. I was shopping for rugs yesterday and I
Yeah.
got an 8 by 10, but I measured it and it's the whole space of my office here, so it covers
Okay.
my whole
Okay, yeah.
space.
I was gonna say, for offices and bedrooms, you're not wrong. Like
Yeah,
8 by 10 is typically as big as those rooms can take. If you have a king size bed, 8 by 10 is gonna get a little small because it's only gonna creep out, you know. You want to be able to step off out of bed and be on the rug, not just on the edge of the rug.
yeah,
So, yeah. Like a lot of times I'll do room size rugs for people that don't necessarily have pretty floors. I'll do a room size rug. And if you're doing that, you only need to expose like 8 inches of the floor around the size around like so you'll have a room size rug if it's big and you really want to warm up the space. And then I might have a rug over a rug, like just holding the seating area. You know, like the room size rug might be muted and a sisal and really simple. And then the accent rug over the top might be the loud and fresh one that draws all the attention.
sure. What else are some of your pet peeves when it comes to design? I got cheap light fixtures, small rugs. What else? What else should
um,
people avoid?
People buy, I guess it's like always the same thing, I guess, really. Everything's too small. Nobody buys big enough stuff. I know the bigger the things are, the more expensive they are. So people are like, "Oh, I can afford the this one because but the bigger one is, you know, $1,000 more." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's $1,000 of impact." So
Yeah,
people buy too small of rugs. People buy too small of light fixtures. The other thing is nobody buys art anymore. And art is so important. And everybody always has postage stamp art. You know what I mean? Like walls are big, and your artwork is associated to the size of your wall. So unless you're going to start grouping your art, which is an option for economical,
mhm.
you know, groups of four to make a larger piece. When you're out shopping and you see those things that you like, and they're at least, you know, like 24 by 36 or 36 by 40, buy them. People don't have big art any longer, you know, and it is so impactful on the space. You know, you
Yeah,
can have all the furniture in the world and everything like that, but many people's homes don't look complete because there's no window coverings, there's no artwork, they didn't do any accessories. People don't buy lamps any longer. You know what I mean? Or at least lovely lamps. They have those
yeah.
terrible floor lamps that you had from the 80s that are like uplighting. You know, that nice soft light makes everybody look good.
No, I get that. Um, those are all awesome. Thank you for the suggestions too.
Yeah.
You got my wheels turning as well. Have you been to the Oakland White Elephant rummage sale? I was just
Oh, I
talking
just
about it with a
went.
friend. Yeah.
I went with her.
Oh, you did. You went with Lisa?
Yeah.
For our listeners, Lisa's a mutual friend of ours. But yeah, Lisa put me on that, and I'm gonna go tomorrow. Is that a good resource for like light fixtures and art? And
Yeah. Art actually, they have a ton of art, and you could just go and spend the time in the art section if you wanted to, because it's not all displayed. So you have to like flip through, and there's some really good deals, especially for big pieces.
yeah,
I was very tempted on like a few pieces, but yeah, they have some great furniture pieces too. Granted, everything's vintage, keep in mind, so you might have to do some repairs. Really lovely cane, a lot of cane furniture that was really interesting and could be beautiful impact pieces for like a foyer or something. But yeah, it was fabulous. The kitchen section, I got two really cool, you know, Japanese nabe pots
hmm,
for a really good deal. I know Lisa got an amazing floor lamp. And she was like, I hope I didn't pay too much for it. But, you know, I think she paid like $120 or something. And not everything's vintage. Keep in mind, it is used. It's been donated. But that light fixture I have purchased, and it is still on one of my vendor websites, and it retails for I think $1,300.
yeah,
So she got a total steal.
yeah. We talked about that when I was over there this last week.
Yeah.
So yeah, for anyone listening, the Oakland White Elephant Vintage Sale going on till like I think early March.
It happens
But
one for 1 month every year.
yeah, yeah, and I've heard it's one of the best vintage sales. So I appreciate your buy-in on that. And also, I'm going to link your portfolio to the podcast so you can see all the beautiful art and light fixtures and everything that Jeff was talking about for all our listeners. Um, just a couple more questions, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. Okay, so just some fun personal questions, if you don't mind.
All right.
What is the most unique or challenging space that you've ever designed? I was looking at your portfolio, and I know you've been all over the U.S. Um, I saw you did Baya too, that actually closed down. That was a total bummer.
Oh, yeah. That was
Gorgeous
such a
space, man.
bummer.
Yeah,
I was curious why it closed. I think that they just like probably, I think restaurants are hard. It's hard to turn a profit, though it was always popping in there. That
yeah.
was such a good space.
It was stunning,
I was,
stunning.
I'm dying to know what happened to that chandelier, if it's still hanging there.
Sure, that was a showstopper.
I had that made for that restaurant. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Damn.
and it was not cheap.
Yeah.
So anyway, remind me the question again? What's the
What's
most
the unique or challenging space that you've ever designed?
I mean, that may have been it, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mentioned that I am a residential designer. I've always been a residential designer. I worked very briefly for a firm where I did some what do you call it? Extended, not extended, old folks home. Is that
Yeah.
it's there's a better term for it. Didn't But that was where you primarily working in common spaces and stuff like that. Technically residential, but very boring work.
Yeah.
The restaurant was fun and challenging. And my first and only time I've ever done really a commercial space or a restaurant. Those were my clients that I have worked for extensively. So I did their residences. So I've done a couple residences for them. We were finishing up one down south around Pacifica, and went swimmingly. They were very, very happy. And so they were like, hey, we're doing this restaurant, and we would love you to come in and do it for us because we work together so well. We have a rapport. I know what our taste is. You can probably bang it out. I'm like, okay, so I guess I'll do a restaurant.
Nice.
It's interesting because you're working with a client, and when you're working in their home, yes, there's a budget, but people want things and they're willing to go over budget on certain things for that they feel are important.
Yeah.
The restaurant had a budget to make it feasible, and we did not go over it because the return on investment is, as you mentioned, by a closed. While we were doing it, they were like, we don't own this building. We have a lease that is 4 years, and we have the option to extend after 4 years if we want to, if it feels like it's going to go. But everything we're putting in here, all these custom booths and all this furniture and all this work and this beautiful chandelier, etc., will not have any place to go if this restaurant closes. You know what I mean? All that is just money left here.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting to try to get everything done with like this constraint, and there was a lot to do. So it was challenging.
So you couldn't
I
overspend and you couldn't underspend either,
I had,
right?
I literally, basically they said, this is how much money you can spend. And it was like down to the dollar sort of
Yeah.
thing. I was like,
Yeah.
not going to leave anything on the table. Trust me. If I had $10 left, I was buying a doorstop or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, I've never, I work in an industry where I'm doing a lot of like, water jet marble mosaics and, laser cut wood floors, and things like that. And we had our imagery board when we started the project, what it was going to look like. And we were brainstorming and all these ideas. Ooh, yeah, cool, cool, cool. And then when it came down to it, I was like, the tile's not going to be this on from the imagery board. It's going to be, $14 a square foot penny rounds from Ann Sachs. And they're like,
Yeah,
yep, that's what we can afford. And it'll fit in the budget, but it looked good. The place looked really good. I was proud of it. It would have looked
amazing.
amazing if we got everything from the imagery board there.
Yeah, I'll bet. I'll bet it came together nicely though.
Yeah.
If you could design a dream home for anybody, living or dead, who would it be? It's
Oh my gosh. Huh.
a loaded question.
It is
No
so
wrong
interesting.
answer.
I mean, you wanted to work with somebody fun, right? So, like, who would be work fun? Like, I think who'd be crazy to work with and super fun? Cher,
Shit. Yeah.
right?
That. Yeah.
I mean,
Unlimited budget.
I'm pretty sure I've seen her, like, some of her spaces, and she's got some crazy ideas and crazy. I don't know if she's still like that, but yeah, I think she'd have some really cool. I think that there'd be like some neat spaces, unconventional, but also have some money to work with that would be really
Yeah.
fun.
I'm gonna see if there was ever a walkthrough of her house. Maybe I can send it to you or something. Maybe I don't think
Yeah,
she was on Cribs, but I bet she was on some sort of architectural
something.
side list. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
All right, man. One more question, if you got time. I really appreciate you being here and
Yep.
and taking the time. Um, and for anyone listening, Jeffrey Kebschull, I'm gonna link his contact info in the comments so you can reach out to him if you got more interior design questions. But last question is if your design style was a coffee order, what would it be? Came
Gosh,
up with that one.
I
Yeah,
hope this isn't I hope this doesn't make people like gag, but I would have everything in it. Like,
yeah.
it would start out with like it'd be like a half calf, with like half two different kinds of milk and foam on the top and then pumps of this and some sprinkles and everything. I want all the stuff. Do not limit me. You know, you can definitely, I don't know. I like accessories, so,
And dude,
but
I bet
I'll do
Starbucks has
clean.
that drink.
Yeah, I know, right? I'll definitely do clean stuff too, but it's interesting because there's a ton of things that go into modern architecture, even though the end result is really clean. So I'm like, you have to have all the tools. I want all
Yeah.
of it in my coffee.
No, I love that. That's the perfect answer.